with the new American gangsters. Cause we speak bold, give no fuck about the haters. It can take freedom from a cold dead hands. We're locked in low for the last days. Cause we're the new American gangsters. Ready to die for this land.
Consistent with my real gender.
No more man! No more man!
Ready to die for this land.
Welcome to the Patriot Punkcast. I am your host, Chase Matheson, and this week was a huge week for Republicans, nationally speaking. We had the Supreme Court come through with major rulings on overturning the Chevron precedent, as well as making a huge decision in the Fisher case, which should likely have a wave effect and a butterfly effect trickling down to some of the other January 6th defendants that have not already taken a plea deal. Those that have already taken a plea deal, their battle is a little bit more difficult. And then, of course, in case you've been living under a rock for the past 3 days, Biden got absolutely obliterated in the debates, and the Democrats are panicking. Now, with all of this winning, it's really easy to get lost on what's actually happening at a local level. But remember that all politics is local, and that's what we're here for. So, what has happened this week? Well, the Tennessee Holler is raising all sorts of hell over some letters that were sent out to citizens who, let's just say, they're calling it immigrant intimidation. We've got the details on that, and we want you to chime in. Do you think it's intimidation, or do you think that the Tennessee Holler is just grasping at straws? Then, Phil Williams is at it again with his extremely aggressive investigating reporting, this time running a special on the rise of hate in Tennessee. And he's so out of touch that he's literally grouping in Ku Klux Klan rallies in the same category as the rally to end child mutilation. And I just can't believe that there's a local news station actually platforming this. And then, if you were downtown this week, there was a giant inflatable piece of birth control looming over Legislative Plaza. Find out what that's all about and why all the Democrats were taking their photograph next to it. And finally, you will never believe what this woman got caught with inside her Taco Bell order. Before we get started, we wanted to remind you to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends. The easiest way for a small-time podcast to grow is through word of mouth. In fact, it's basically the only way for it to grow. So take clips, send it in text messages, carrier pigeon, however you do it, but get this show out in front of your friends. And hopefully, with enough interaction, the algorithms will kick in. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, remember we are going to cut the stream off after the first topic, so you'll have to go over to Rumble or X to find us there. Be sure to check out our website, thepatriotpunknetwork.com. There we have all sorts of videos. We've actually got 5 or 6 new things that are going to be coming up in the next few days, and a couple of big announcements that we're going to have at the end of the show. While you're there, also, please take time to hop on over to the support channel or the support page. That way you can do a one-time contribution to support the Patriot Punk Network, or you can become a monthly member. Monthly members, you will be getting some of your first little perks announced tonight. Not going to say that it's going to be the golden egg or anything like that, but we're trying to find a way to reward those people who really support freedom and transparency in Tennessee. And last but not least, I sponsor myself for the show as an authorized Kirby dealer. If you've never heard of Kirby, or if all you remember is the big metal vacuum, then you definitely want to take a look at one. From cleaning carpets and rugs, to cleaning your upholstery, your cars, to buffing out hardwood floors and even unclogging drains, or sanding and staining a piece of furniture. The Avalier 2 by Kirby does it all. Been around for 110 years, and we don't want you to buy something until you've seen it perform inside your house. So if you're interested in taking a look at one just to find out what they do, message me today, drop a comment, someone will reach out to you, or you can send me an email. I think that's all the business handled tonight. If you'll excuse me, I have a guest host tonight, Emery the cat. She's going to be running around in the background. So just try to ignore her. Make sure you drop some love in the comments for her, helping me in this endeavor. Manning the controls and flicking the switches is my good friend and co-host, Daniel Wagner.
Hey, what is going on, Mr. Matheson? It's been like, what, a week since we spoke last or something?
I know it's I enjoy summer, but the heat just wears you out.
Oh, you ain't lying. I've been wet the whole week, whether it's been from that little bit of rain we got, or it's been from me cleaning couches, or just straight up manly sweat. I've just been moist all week.
We just lost 3 viewers because you said the word moist. I think tonight's episode is going to be quite fun. We've got a prominent member of society joining us. He is making a run for Tennessee's state senate in District 18. And I don't think there's any other introduction I can give him other than that. We want to welcome Chris Spencer to the show.
Hey, Chase. Thanks for having me. Hey, Daniel.
How are you? Thank you for coming. Real quick, just tell everyone who you are and kind of what made you decide to run for office.
Well, my name is Chris Spencer. I'm 58 years old. Been married to my wife going on 34 years. We have 2 beautiful daughters, and now we are going on our 4th grandchild. And we live in Hendersonville, Tennessee. We love it here. We moved here 20 years ago from Cincinnati, Ohio. I had my own business in the college basketball business, and I put on some of the largest events across the country for the past 33 years. I've basically been the leader in the promotion of preseason events like in Las Vegas and New York and Hawaii or wherever. And the reason why I ran was basically Senator Haile's voting record, and in particular his role, if you will, during COVID in the state of Tennessee, as he served on as the chair of the ad hoc committee to study the governor's powers during the pandemic. So basically, I thought he did a poor job, and somebody needed to challenge him because he's pretty much been unchallenged in 14 years.
Wow, first, I want to say thank you. Most people do not have, let's call it the testicular fortitude to run for office, especially against someone that's been in office that long. I'm just curious, what made you choose to run for state senate over, state house or local mayor or something like that?
I guess the simplest reason is I was kind of recruited, if you will. So by some very conservative friends here in Sumner County. He's never really been challenged. And we've asked so many people in our county to run for school board or for county commission or for aldermen. And those people have been fantastic to change the landscape here in Sumner County. And when those people asked me, I decided that why not me? And I basically am semi-retired, and really, in order to run an effective state race, you kind of got to be retired, and you have to have resources because it's a full-time job. I can tell you.
We're showing your website on screen right now. Can you scroll up just a little bit, Daniel? Because it looks like you've got some big name endorsements.
We have
John Rich, Riley Gaines, and then who is that last one?
Kirk Cameron. Okay.
Kirk Cameron, General Mike Flynn, Tennessee Right to Life, Lee Beeman, Robbie Starbuck. Trying to think of some others. We got some others in the hopper here that we're going to hopefully be able to announce in a week or so. But yeah, I think we caught the eye of a lot of people across the state simply because of some of the endorsements that we were able to achieve for this race. I know my opponent's kind of worried about him.
Well, that's good. I like seeing some of the more establishment members shaking in their high heels a little bit.
Yeah.
So for those of you who, after the show, of course, want to support Chris, please go to Chris Spencer for
Senate.com. Chris Spencer for Senate.com.
If you look in the description of this video, the link is the second one in there. So be sure to click on that. There's a donate button. And I'm sure that they have a war chest that they're probably already using against you, aren't they?
Oh, I think they will use well over $1 million for this race that pays $25,000 a year. So he's well funded by Big Pharma, and not just that, but The Senate caucus has now gotten involved. Governor Lee got involved. He actually came here 3 weeks ago to do a fundraiser for Senator Haile. And then the lieutenant governor and his Mac pack, if you will, has probably spent $100,000 over the past 3 weeks itself. So they're burning through cash, and because they're scared, and they do not want to see somebody that is conservative, that has the courage to actually do something for Tennessee, and not, work for the special interest in across the country, basically.
We'll see if the politicians stop working for special interests, there's going to be a lot of out of work lobbyists across the state. So,
well, that would be a good thing, and that is a goal of mine, to limit the reach of lobbyists and special interests, because they have too much power in Tennessee, way too much power. And of course, I've seen it, firsthand now, running against it.
I have to say it's disgusting seeing how much just backroom deals get made, and how don't get me wrong, everyone knows politics is dirty, but you feel nasty sometimes even being in the same room with these people. Well, I'm excited to get your take on our first story, because I believe that, being in the constitutional side of things, you probably have a pretty strong stance on election integrity.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So the Tennessee Holler, which I think everyone kind of knows, is probably the most liberal news outlet in the state of Tennessee. They have recently brought to light some letters that the Secretary of State's office mailed out. And I think Daniel's going to bring that up. Yeah, there we go. And I've got it here in front of me so that I can actually read it. This is from the Tennessee Holler. A Latino Tennessean in Williamson County, a citizen for over a decade, got this letter. And they say they've seen many over the past probably week and a half. They've actually had dozens of people. All the state reps are sharing this. The letter says, our office has received information that appears to indicate that your voter information matches with an individual who may not have been a United States citizen at the time of obtaining a Tennessee driver's license or ID card. Under Tennessee Code 219-107, it is illegal for an individual who is not a citizen of the United States to vote in a local, state, or federal election in Tennessee. Illegal voting is a felony. The potential penalty is at least 2 years in jail and a fine of up to $5,000. We need to ensure Tennessee voters' rolls are correct. If you need to correct your voting record or your record, please follow these instructions. For a person who is not a U.S. citizen, if you're not a U.S. citizen and would like your name removed from the voter rolls at this time, you may use the enclosed form to make the request. For a person who is a U.S. citizen with evidence of U.S. citizenship, if you are a U.S. citizen and would like to submit proof of citizenship, you can submit a legible photocopy of one of the following documents. It lists a whole bunch of stuff. Next page tells you how to mail it. And then it says, thank you for your cooperation in this request to keep the voter registration list correct in the state of Tennessee. Mark Goins. First, Chris, do you see anything inherently wrong or threatening about that letter?
No, not at all. I mean, I think the goal is across the country, it should be, especially in our red states, is to clean up the voter rolls. We have a lot of dead people that are still on the current voter rolls, and we need to take some action to clean those up. Look, if you would have seen what I had to do to run for state senate, this is, this is very simple stuff, right? I mean, provide your driver's license by mail, if you will, and there's your proof, or a birth certificate. I mean, it just.
Well, so here's what I'm actually reading. So first off, for some pretext, because I think a lot of the people on the left, this was sent to a lot of Latino last name sounding people. I should imagine it was probably also sent to a lot of people. I'm going to have to ask my uncle if he got one. But he's not Latino. The reason I ask is, I bring it up though, is because they're trying to make it sound like it's a race issue and that it's voter intimidation. Nothing in this letter requires action. This letter basically says, would you help us out? It doesn't say that, it doesn't even threaten to charge someone if they are registered and don't vote. And I know, being a dual citizen, having family who, in the past has not been eligible to vote, when you go to get your driver's license, they will absolutely ask you if you would like to register to vote.
I'm
Even
just
if
trying
you're
to
not
I'm
legal.
just trying to figure out. Let's say I am somebody who's trying to vote illegally, and I received this letter in the mailbox. Like, I mean, I just don't see a position where I would be like intimidated by it. Like, what's the intimidation tactic?
That's the left. The left makes up problems so that they can divide this country. We just had about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We just had, I think, 12 or 13 people from Sumner County that were arrested for illegally voting in our elections last cycle, and they were all felons, right? But they were voting. Okay, so I don't see Tennessee Holler screaming about that these people were actually arrested and they're being prosecuted for illegally voting because they were felons voting in Sumner County. But they're not talking about that.
That doesn't fit their narrative. In
Sure.
fact, I thought it was really funny. We brought up the debate earlier, and there is a pastor that after the debate, they've taken the side that Donald Trump's just a liar, and that the quote from this pastor for justice that they've brought up really big says, people will believe lies spoken with conviction before they'll believe truths spoken softly, and that's unfortunate. What's really ironic is that the Tennessee Hollers bio says always yell. So I think that the entire left has a complete irony deficiency.
But what's the left's goal? The left's goal is to allow all of these illegals to vote one day. I mean, that's their goal. I mean, some of them say it out loud.
Absolutely. And they also have a goal of sowing discord because they aren't trying to protect the system. They don't respect the system. They want to either inherently change the system, like a caterpillar blossoming into a butterfly is how the really pretty way they'd put it. But what they really want to do is they understand that if they can destroy the current system, then they can rebuild it the way they want to. It's like that annoying little kid in grade school that would come and smash your blocks so that he could play with them.
If anything, I'm upset that they didn't send this letter 2-3 years ago, right? I mean, why do that a few months before an election? Why didn't you do this 2 years ago?
I think I know why, and it's because from what I've heard, they have used an AI tool to help them basically cross-reference names and stuff off of all their spreadsheets, because a lot of people involved in the government bureaucracy don't actually do a lot of work. They just they confuse activity with accomplishment. I should put it that way.
This has one of the feels of people putting on those race lenses, like everything's racist, and they've been so welded to their face that they literally see it in everything they look at all the time. So I just can't see how they can look at this and think that way. But I guess if you're already steeped in it so much that that's all you see, then that's probably what's going on here.
Well, this actually happened. I did a little town hall at one of the senior centers here last week, and this one woman who I think her last name was like Hernandez or something, and she literally brought this up because my number one thing that I'm running on is really doing something about illegal immigration. And so she tried to use this to try to, berate me and everything. I just, this is how the left works, right? I mean, and there's no problem with this letter, none whatsoever. This should have been, if anything, this is late. This should have been done a while ago.
I agree. And I do want to get your take. Obviously, as a state senator, you would have no control over our national immigration policy.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
But what kind of things would you like to see implemented at a state level?
Yeah.
Where you could implement a change, especially for people. And it's been a long time. I played soccer a whole lot growing up, and a lot of people that played soccer are foreign born. A lot of the people that I played soccer with, their parents were at the time, green card holders, or some of them illegal immigrants trying to get legal. And one of the things that I became, I guess, sympathetic to a little bit is that just like we're seeing now with these caravans where there's nonprofits telling people, well, hey, they'll feed you, they'll do this here, and telling these people how to do it. Back in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, when you wanted to come to America just to visit, they would tell you, or if you wanted to come to America to try to get a job and to do the right thing, they would tell you can't.
You'd have to be sponsored.
You have to be sponsored. And then if you lose that job, because the only job you could get was kind of lower end, and then you want to go work for another company, you would never be able to do that because of the paperwork involved in switching your sponsor. And so I have my own critiques with our federal immigration system and think that we should improve it to a point where it's not just making lawyers the beneficiaries, because that's who gets rich, are the lawyers that are filing all this and taking money from. But on a state level, what changes could we do to stop some of these 15, 20 million illegal immigrants who have come across the border in the last 5 years?
Yeah, well, again, I think there's a lot of things that we can do if we have the right people in office. So I take the approach of that we're wasting time. We have a conservative Supreme Court right now, and we should have been passing laws for the past 3 years to help illegal immigration, so that it would have already been up the chain to the Supreme Court. And we've done nothing, hoping that Donald Trump is president, and then we can start be prepared to take action. I like what Oklahoma's doing. They passed a state law that made it illegal, a crime, to be an illegal alien in the state of Oklahoma. I think that we should probably do something like that in Tennessee. And what they do is they find that person that is found first $5,000, and if they get caught again, they get deported. Okay, so that's one thing that I think that we should do. The other thing we should be doing is, right now, if you're a company that has less than 35 employees, you don't have to e-verify your employees. I think that should be 0. I think all employees should be e-verified so that they're paying into the system, because we're losing $650 million a year just in our educational system, educating illegal aliens. And it's really been difficult on our teachers. The other thing that I would do is I would go after that Supreme Court ruling from 1982, Plier v. Doe. And that basically is the Supreme Court ruling that says that we must accept all illegal alien children, and we cannot discriminate based upon their nationality or their being a non-use,
their citizenship status. Yeah.
Status. We should pass a law to change that.
What was the name of that Supreme Court case?
It's Plier v. Doe.
Okay.
Plier v. Doe. From 1982, it was in Tyler, Texas, I believe. It was the school board in Tyler, Texas, was charging the families, illegal alien families, $1,000, and 6 families, I think it was, didn't want to pay it, so they decided to sue, and it went through the district and all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it was a 5-4 ruling to make that basically law. And of course, in 1982, we didn't have a conservative court at all. So if we had today's court on that if that came before this court now, it would be the reverse, right? And so I think that is we have got to demagnetize Tennessee. We can also they tried to do this past year. They also tried to penalize for transporting illegal aliens. I mean, stiff penalties on airlines, on bus companies, and so forth, and it failed. And so I think that's the other thing that we can do.
So you mentioned the illegal immigrants that are the amount of tax money that we're missing because they're not submitting to the.
Of course, Daniel's got a tax question.
No. Do you remember Neil Bortz when he was on the radio and he'd always be talking about the fair tax? Like when I heard that when I was younger, I loved it. I was like, that makes so much more sense. If we're going to have a tax, I mean, just to make it just a across the board sales tax that everybody pays, no matter what business you're in, or legal or illegal, you're still paying into the system. And I thought it was such a great idea. And then the other word you mentioned that I haven't heard for probably 15 years from anybody publicly was demagnetization. That seems like a concept that I heard about all the time back 10, 20 years ago, but I have not heard it since. It's such an obvious solution. That's
because when you magnetize an area, all the contractors and the construction people that have really ran Tennessee for a really long time get to make 12.5% on all of those massive building projects, because contractors charge a fee, and that's 12.5% of a government bid. If you've ever been involved in the government bid industry,
Yeah,
$600 cheeseburgers exist.
I totally understand why. It's when you hear somebody actually talking solutions and you hear words like demagnetize, that's somebody who is actually interested in solving the problem, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. And I am. That's why I'm running. I didn't have to do this. I mean, I could be golfing and fishing and playing with my grandkids. And yet every day I'm knocking on doors trying to win this election because I'm up against this huge establishment that is doing everything in their power to try to defeat me. But actually, I think we are in a position to win this race. But yeah, I think there's a lot that we can do at the state level if we have the right people that are willing and they have the courage to stand against the federal government. For one, we have the 10th Amendment. We have state sovereignty. It's about time we start to use that, and we better really start to use it in case Donald Trump doesn't get reelected. Of course, we want Donald Trump to be reelected, but can you imagine the shape we're going to be if he does not get reelected? We really need strong people in the state Senate.
Better stock up on popcorn.
My fear is that even if he does get elected, we will not have done enough to take over state houses, state Senate. I've noticed the past 2022, there were some places like Sumner County that made some headway. But a lot of the establishment, they call rhinos, that, the people that put us in the mess we were in during COVID, they solidified and shored up their ranks a little bit too. And I'm worried that people are so caught up sometimes in the national aspect that they are missing some of the more important things locally.
100%.
Speaking of somebody who is trying to actually get things done, or speaking of someone who's not trying to get things done, our next segment is on Phil Williams' story on hate. If you were on Facebook or YouTube, we are going to end that stream. Daniel's going to get on that right now. So join us over on Rumble and X. This conversation could get a little spicy. And yeah, so obviously if you've been in Tennessee,